grow up with the NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Well, hello, Alex, the producer here, and we are back with just a quick review show. Birdman had a few reviews that he said, hey, we want to make sure that they come out this week. And I said, okie dokie, I've got maybe one or two myself that we can put out in between the regular show. So here we are. It is nearing the end of May as we sort of get ready for Summer Game Fest and the Nintendo Switch 2 launch in the next couple of weeks. And we've got a few things to talk about. I know Birdman's had some movies. I have a couple games that I'm working on. I was just sort of going to go over here in the opening here, just sort of an impressions a little bit. I've got a game on PC for Steam called Cribbish that I was sent for review. And it's what if you mixed Balatro and cribbage, which is weird and interesting. The graphics aren't like super great or anything, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to be fun and addicting, which it is. It's actually pretty fun. I have not played cribbage. I always thought it was like an old people game, but I went, you know what, let's give it a try. And they sent the review code over, and I had a pretty good time playing it. It's pretty simple. It'll run on basically any piece of hardware that you have. So it's something you might want to check out. That's become the new thing, now that Balatro and card games are all in vogue with the roguelike nature of them, that's what this is, and in itself it's pretty fun overall. I've got a few other titles that I was playing. I've been playing a demo right now for a game that's coming out a little later in the year called Dino Punk, the Cops Adventure, and it's sort of like a retro 90s platformer type game with a little bit of cutscenes put in there, and it's pretty fun as well. It's probably worth checking out if you get a chance to look at it. I'm liking a lot of these indie titles that are coming out that are platformers that way. I am also checking out a few titles that I don't think I can talk about just quite yet, but pretty good variety of stuff, actually. I'm having a good time with it. I'm waiting on a few items to come in. I've got a router coming in that I'm going to be talking about, a new high-tech Wi-Fi 7.1 access point. So I'll be talking about that a little later. And also something coming probably on next week's show, depending on when things arrive. More stuff from Fujifilm Print Life. We did the Mother's Day stuff from them. They've got another package right now for NHL teams. So if I get a chance, so if they come in time for the regular show, I will maybe take a picture and put it in our show notes to show some of the fun, interesting ideas of things that you could do with the stuff from our friends over there at Fujifilm Print Life. And beyond that, I am working on a review on a few interesting PC games. I can't necessarily say exactly what right now because sometimes there's embargoes on things here and there of when you can, but just say that there's really interesting indie titles essentially. I do also have some movies in the works coming in that I'll be talking about, but as for what I'm including here in this show, I do have what should I include? I do have actually a headset that I'll be talking about from our friends at Turtle Beach. We'll probably have another one as well in the following week's show, but that's going to be my contribution here. It's just going to be probably 2 or 3 reviews. Birdman has a few that he wants to include, and like I said, we will have more coverage of a lot of these things coming on this week's following show. just a note that we won't be doing a regular show, like a regular news, weird news and everything show, the week of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch. That comes out on a Thursday. Then the Friday is the Summer Game Fest. That whole week is basically all of the gaming news and stuff, so we're going to have a lot of prototype episodes. We won't have a regular show that week, but we might do a review show depending on what comes out, either before that or after that. We might pre-record for that. But yes, I guess without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Michael because he's got a couple of really interesting things he wants to talk about.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something we got for review from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment and Cartoon Network. I'm talking about Rick and Morty, the anime. I've been in and out of the Rick and Morty fandom for a couple of years now. Obviously, with the unfortunate stuff that happened a couple of years ago. And, it is what it is. I had no idea this was even a thing. Evidently, there were a bunch of animated shorts that came out a little while ago, and now they've turned this into a full-blown anime series. It's like 10 episodes or so. It's like over 200 minutes. So this is something you can blitz through in literally an afternoon if you really want to marathon this. The story is kind of confusing, like most Rick and Morty stuff. Dimension hopping, time travel. Obviously, there's like the Prime Ricks. There's someone called Mullet Rick. There's a mysterious girl named Elle. There's Space Beth and Space Summer. The Galactic Federation and all this shenanigans. And what you get is an anime series, like, it looks anime-ish. I mean, obviously, it still has visuals that are still recognizable as Rick and Morty, very distinct, but there are some anime qualities to it, and it looks okay. In fact, I would dare say it even looks good at times. There's some pretty cool fight scenes here, but I'm left with a lot of why, and I don't like that. And it's not that I'm even in a bad mood, because that sometimes can affect how I review certain movies. I like to review from the heart, very much how it makes me feel in the moment. And here, it wasn't anything that affected my day. This was just kind of there. And Rick and Morty, to me, has always relied on kind of a smart, weird kind of meta humor. I mean, this is a show that has very strange humor and very much in my line if you've known me for any number of years, since we've been doing the show since 2007. So very much up my alley. Rick and Morty the anime doesn't tickle that a whole lot. I think it's interesting how they're jumping between different time periods and alternate realities, cause and effect, the idea of entropy and whatnot. Again, neat ideas, but explored in a way where I literally don't care. And it's set during such a weird time. This happens, I think, between seasons 5 and 6 of the show. And while I'm no deep lore expert, I had to do a little bit of research to figure out what the hell does that mean. So again, I'm a little bit lost on this. And while going through the mini-series, such as it may be, is it entertaining? Yeah, I guess it's got its moments, but I'm overall not impressed. I'd say about the coolest thing here is the music is occasionally really good, really cool theme song, and that's not bad. And some of the new character designs look kind of neat. I mean, Rick with an anime edge, interesting. Mullet Rick, interesting. Space Morty, whatever. I do like it for the most part. I mean, one of my favorite bad guys comes on fairly early with Tammy. I really enjoyed that look with her, like, cybernetic parts. Again, it looks cool. It looks like something out of, like, I don't know, Overwatch meets Gundam or something. But still, there are no special features here. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't include the original shorts. You get a slipcover. I guess that's something. I mean, there's some neat artwork inside the case. But there's just not a lot here. It would have been nice. And evidently none of the American voice cast was involved, so that kind of surprised me. I mean, they do a serviceable job, but I wouldn't exactly say, Funimation's going to be kicking down their door anytime soon. So yeah, this is just kind of something I would recommend only for completionists only. Maybe when there is a complete Rick and Morty series, like literally everything that has ever been done in the franchise, we will get a proper release of this. It would be nice if they do a redub. Not likely to happen. But it would be nice to get all the original shorts, maybe some director commentary, or, just something to add a little bit more to the episode, other than like those post-credit stingers. We're like, hey, we're in Cronenberg world again, or whatever, or here's Jerry wandering through the multiverse, or whatever. So, yeah, ultimately, Rick and Morty, the anime, completionist only. If you can get it for cheap, yeah, sure. If you've been completing the series so far on physical media, you're probably going to pick this up. But as it stands right now, this is for super fans only across the multiverse.
Alex, the producer here, and I have a new item to review here from our friends over at Turtle Beach. I mentioned in the last week or so that they sent a few items over to check out new products for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm looking at the Recon 70 headset. This is a headset themed around the Nintendo Switch, but it's actually pretty universal because it is a wired headset. So you plug it into, if you're playing on the Switch portably, you'd plug it into the top of the Nintendo Switch. If you are playing this on like an Xbox or PlayStation, you just plug it into the controller. Or, other whatever output device. Your television has a headphone jack, you can use an extension cable, plug it in that way, that sort of thing. You just won't be able to get, if you're plugging it into like a TV, you won't be able to get like the functionality of the microphone itself, but it will still work as a headphone that way. As far as working on the Nintendo Switch 2, in theory, it should work. Obviously, this isn't something that's certified for the Switch 2 yet. I will be testing that in the next couple of weeks when we get our hands on the Switch 2 hardware, because it's a universal device and uses an analog plug for it. The fact that the Nintendo Switch 2, it'll have the headphone jack on the top, which obviously you could use the same way you could in the Switch. But the Switch 2 also with the Pro controllers has audio jack on the bottom, similar to what you see on modern controllers for PlayStation and Xbox. I would assume it's going to work there. Just take it with a grain of salt, only because it isn't, quote unquote official yet. But because of, its universal compatibility, you shouldn't have any issues there. It does have a flip to mute microphone, meaning if you do not want to talk and you don't want the microphone to be active, you flip it up into the off position and it will auto cut off on its own. That's a feature we see on most good quality, headsets out there. It is a pretty lightweight headset overall, but don't confuse light with cheap feeling. It does feel pretty premium for, what it is, considering it's got an MSRP of about $40 US. Take that a little more in Canada and the rest of the world here, but pretty good overall. 40 millimeter drivers for the speakers. Not the best I've heard, but keep in mind that the best, again, in quotes that I've heard, are when you approach the $200-300 mark when it comes to headsets. So for the price point, these are really solid. And they're going to be a step up from, just plugging in. A lot of kids nowadays used to use earbuds, right? So it's a big step up from that. There is noise isolation in the cushions. You are, if you are going to crank it real loud, you will, if you're sitting next to somebody, be able to hear, but it's not, it's not completely noise isolating, but it is pretty good. And more importantly, you wearing them don't hear nearly as much of the outside, background noise around you. These are officially licensed by Nintendo for the Nintendo Switch. It says compatible with spatial audio technologies. Anything wired is compatible with spatial audio technologies. That's not something new. This isn't using a digital signal transmission or DAC or anything involved. So it is going to be working. Basically, the Switch itself doesn't have spatial audio at all. Switch 2 might. But what that means is if you're plugging this into PlayStation, in the controllers, it will do some software simulation stuff with their Tempest audio they have built in for their 3D audio. More importantly, if you have this plugged into, actually it would be more important, I guess, with an Xbox specifically, because with the Xbox, you can actually pay for a license for Dolby or DTS audio to do their spatial audio with headsets. And that's what I've done. I've tested it with my Xbox. And yes, I can say, it does have a more full immersive EQ on that. But for the Switch, it's most important is, does it sound, good? You're limited by what games you're playing because Nintendo Switch generally compresses their audio a lot more because of limited space versus what you have on a PlayStation or on an Xbox. But it does sound solid, clear, no crackling, no audible compression from the the speakers being tuned weird or anything. It sounds pretty flat, which is good. A little bit emphasis on the bass, but that's perfectly fine for gaming. I would say they are in that price point of $40-$50, somewhere in there. Pretty solid. The frequency response is 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. That's pretty standard for something in this range. It does have inline volume wheel for the master volume on the headset, as well as the mic muting. It is an omnidirectional microphone, meaning it's going to pick up some sound around, but it does have some pretty good noise isolation that way. It's not like going to pick up a million things from farther away. It does come with a 4-foot cable. That should be fine when you're sitting down, playing it in handheld mode. If you are going to play with it on a desk in tabletop mode, or if for some reason you're reaching really far over across the room when it's in dock mode, you are going to want an extension cable, and something like that. You can get a decent headphone extension cable for like $10 and get 10 or 15 feet extension on Amazon if that's something you truly really need. But I'm glad they went with 4 feet. Sometimes headsets only come with like 2 or 3 feet, and that's not really enough, especially if you're going to play on the Switch in tabletop mode. But 4 feet, I think, is a happy medium where you're not dealing with too much cable, but also having just enough slack that you can sit down and really relax and have your games in your hand and then not worry about the cable being too tight or pulling or anything. Pretty solid overall in product quality and aesthetics. I think it looks pretty good. If you're looking for something to pick up, and again, the Switch 2 is just around the corner. Because it is a wired headset, and we know that they have the wired capabilities there with the Switch 2 as well as with the controller for it. It wouldn't be a bad idea, even if you don't have a current Switch and you're picking up a Switch 2, to maybe consider this as something that you can get under $50 that'll get the job done and sound good.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got sent for review from our friends over at Capcom. They sent over digital review codes for the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 on the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch. However, I went out and purchased a physical copy of this game on the Nintendo Switch because you are never, ever taking this from me again. Fight me in the street, come at me, bro. So I am incredibly happy to talk about this. You are getting a number of games. You are getting Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK 2 Pro. You are getting Capcom Fighting Evolution, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, Power Stone 1 and 2, Project Justice, and Plasma Sword. However, games that are missing from this, Project Justice's first game was called Rival Schools, and Star Gladiator was the precursor to Plasma Sword. Disappointing not to see these games released, but that's okay. There are plenty of games that Capcom can release in the future, and I'm not sure why they're not here. I don't suspect it's a technical reason. Maybe they just thought these games would be better off. These are arcade ports, so if there were certain things that were exclusive to a console, they may not be here. I know for Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, there was a later arcade port called, actually it was exclusive to the PSP. It was called Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, which is my personal favorite of the ways to play Street Fighter Alpha 3, which is actually one of my favorite Street Fighter games, which added some extra characters, new modes and whatever. That is not here. Same with some stuff to the Power Stone collection, which I'm not completely familiar with. I know it was a very popular game, Dreamcast game rather, but it was not on my radar. That being said, having the Capcom vs. SNK games, big draw here. And these are the first time these have been available since I want to say the GameCube and the PlayStation 2. Huge deal. We did get SVC Chaos last year, so that's pretty cool. So obviously that's not included here. But there's so much more that could be included in the future, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. It seems like Capcom really wants to put the work into these collections to make sure they are as good to go as they can be. There are tons of options here for filters, for sounds. There's like amazing museum modes where you can see all these design documents and artwork, some stuff I've certainly never seen before. And I used to buy a lot of the art books for these games once upon a time. Yeah, I mean, it's a really impressive collection. Plus, being able to play online, you are restricted to your like platform, so there is no crossplay. Maybe in the future, who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I was really surprised to see them put Capcom Fighting Evolution here. I remember buying that game. I think it was like a port for the Xbox or something. I paid like $5 for it. It's weird. But to have the Capcom versus SNK games, I wonder if this will be the new gold standard that isn't an arcade board kind of going forward for like tournaments and stuff like that. That's very exciting. I'm looking forward to getting my ass kicked online, probably by some of the pro players, because these are the games that I don't have a lot of connection with. In fact, the only game I really have any connection here with is Street Fighter Alpha 3. But looking at these, the one that surprised me the most was Project Justice, because I've heard of the Rival Schools franchise, but I never really played it. So when I got into this, I was like, this is really fun. And I recognize a lot of these designs. In fact, I thought one of the characters was supposed to be Sakura from Street Fighter, but evidently it's not. I'm thinking, all right, that's cool. So now I know where like Batsu comes from and other characters like that. I'm like, all right, neat. I'm in. And then having Plasma Sword, okay, that's a weird game I never would have expected. So sure, why not? And I know people really wanted Power Stone. I really like Power Stone 1. It's chaotic, it's goofy, it's fun. I don't much care for Power Stone 2, and the best way to describe these games is like 4-player Smash Brothers that takes place on like a 3D field. It's fine. It's not my cup of tea, but it's fine. Like, I like the like 2D fighters here. Like I said, the SNK titles are the real showcases here, and I think they play fantastic. So ultimately you're going to be asking, is this game collection worth picking up? Yes. Now, if you do buy this physical, you do get a download code, which will give you a bonus soundtrack, and there's a little mini comic book, which is done by Udon, which has done the traditional Street Fighter comics for a number of years, at least since I was in college. In fact, one of the guys I used to go to college with, his brother was the main artist on this. Dogen was the guy's last name. So that's pretty cool, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think this is amazing. I'm really hoping that we get a Capcom Fighting Collection 3. And my wish list for that would be Tatsunoko versus Capcom. Just give us a re-release. We'll pay it. Clearly, we're showing that. The Street Fighter EX games would be pretty cool to get. I would like to see proper ports that aren't just old versions of like Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 4 Arcade. I think that'd be pretty cool. Obviously, the Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and Marvel vs. Capcom 4 or Infinite would be pretty neat. And just any of the games that we're missing, I think would be really cool. There is an audience for it. I hope we get a proper Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max if we haven't got so already. Maybe throw the Darkstalkers on one of these, because why the hell not? Let's just put everything in new packaging, because clearly people are going to pay it. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Is it my game of the year like the Marvel collection? No, because I don't have the connection to some of these games. But what you're getting here, it's pretty good. There's a lot of love and dedication clearly put into this. I remember speaking to my rep about this game, saying, look, these collections mean so much to me as a fighting game fan. I'm really thankful that these exist, and I'm so glad Capcom is listening to the fans to do this properly, to do this justice, Project Justice, you might say. But I am looking forward to the next fighting evolution and seeing what happens as we evolve upward in this and we get the plasma sword that we're looking forward to wielding. I'm running out of these. I'm sorry. I'm going to go take my Power Stone and go home. But yeah, ultimately, Capcom Fighting Collection 2 is a fantastic addition to your collection, no matter what platform you play on. I would suspect PlayStation 5, PC, and Switch will be the main audiences for this, but it's available across multiple platforms. Please pick this up. Please support it. I want to see more in this. Please, Capcom, I know I've got your ear right now. Tatsunoko versus Capcom, please, and re-release the old Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and give me a better version of Infinite. I'll be very happy. That's all I want. That's all the Birdman wants. Can you give that to me for Christmas or my birthday? It would mean a lot. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Now, back to Alex.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week. What do we have coming up? Well, we've actually got a few things. We've been recording stuff that we are going to be releasing over the course of the summer, as well as some stuff already for Halloween. We wanted to make sure we got stuff done ahead of time. But as far as what is on the schedule for the week this week, we have a New Earth vs. Soup, episode 257, Murders in the Rue Morgue from 1932. That is coming out this week. As well, on the weekend, we have a Twig Random Access Memories on Saturday morning cartoons. The big discussion the boys had on that. As far as some stuff coming up over the next few weeks, without any tentative schedule exactly yet, we will be having another prototype episode either right before or right during Summer Game Fest, the next week and a half or so. We also have a Future Imperfect on RoboCop 87 in 2014. We have a loose cannon on 90s media icons. We also have a Future Imperfect on Total Recall 1990 and 2012. And we have a Random Access Memories on movies that you can watch to get to know us as, who we are as people. So we've got those already sort of ready. We're just figuring out when we're going to release those, as well as the regular show coming out weekly. As I mentioned before, we will not have one the week of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch because it's also Summer Game Fest weekend. And we're going to be focusing our content almost exclusively on stuff that is, gaming related then. We will likely have a review show in its place at some point that week. But as far as news and weird news, we'll have to wait a week after that until we're sort of settled and can get back to normal. But yeah, that's basically it right now. Just a quickie episode. We'll be back with plenty of new stuff this following week right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.